elders of GMS and all the other workers out there doing the work of the Most High and His Son Yahweh Shai. All praises to the Father and the Son, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. Before I go into this topic today, I just want to give out a little couple of scriptures in honours and respect to the elders of GMS, because I can say this wholeheartedly, that out of all of the elders, all of those who proclaim to be elders, without their rules, different types of camps and so forth, truly only the elders of GMS are breaking down these scriptures to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, whether it's good, bad or ugly, whether it's love or hate, however you want to break it up. Only they are the only ones that are telling you both sides of the scriptures. They're not just honing in on the niceties to please people. They're telling you it in its whole entirety. So all praises to the elders of GMS, Elder Tahar, Elder Ryan Lab, basically, and double honours to the three of them, the three elders of GMS. And I just want to quickly read the scripture for them before I go into what I want to talk about. I mean, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39, verse 1. Yeah, I'm going to read 3 verses here. And this is in all respect to the elders, because this is what I see of them and think of them when I read these 3 verses here. So this is Ecclesiastes, chapter 39, verse 1. Obviously we're in the Apocrypha, yeah? But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancients, and be occupied in prophecies. Verse 2, he will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. Verse 3, he will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. And basically this is how it's leading. I think the elders have led the way in such a way that I think these 3 verses just describes them in a nutshell, basically. And as I said, double honours to the elders of GMS, because they are our teachers, and through Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai we were brought into the fold, which we know that without Yahweh Shai we've never been brought into the fold, and He's blessed us with teachers like the elders of GMS. So just once again, Ecclesiastes, verse 39, chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. In the Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, double honours to the elders of GMS. Anyway, today we're going to talk about, we're going to go into prophecies, because all what's happening now until the coming of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai is just prophecy. And the only thing really people can really be focused on now is prophecies. And as we know, there are 2 major prophecies yet to come. World War III and the microchip, which is the mark of the beast. Yeah? Which the Bible speaks of and prophesies about. Now we're going to speak about Ezekiel. Ezekiel was a prophet who lived during the times of the Babylonians then. He was a prophet who was under captivity under the Babylonians when they were taken into captivity in around 600 BC. And Ezekiel had prophesied things to do with the latter days. And when I say the latter days, I mean the last days that we're in now. Yeah? Even though he was in captivity under the Babylonians, he wasn't prophesying about what was happening then for them. It was a future prophecy. So we're going to talk about Ezekiel's prophecy in chapter 38 and chapter 39. Yeah. First, we're going to start in Revelations. So I just want to quickly just go to this because Ezekiel speaks about a place called Gog and Magog, Meshech, Tubal, Togarmah. In the ancient times, these were all the sons of Japhet and grandsons of Japhet. Yeah. It also represented a land, a place where people lived, because I would always say this to you: people were, before people settled on the land, they were a nation. So people were a nation before they settled on the land, and then that land would be named after them, because that's how things were in the ancient times. Yeah. So anyway, let's get down to it. Revelations chapter 20, verse 8. I want to go to. Yeah. So remember, what does the word revelation mean? To reveal. Yeah. So this is going to reveal something to us to do with in the scriptures, because once again, as most people know, who do you teach scripture? Who do you learn doctrine? Those who are weaned from the milk, because what we will teach you, what, line upon line, here a little, there a little. So this is how it's going to play out when we break down Ezekiel chapter 38. Yeah. So we're going to start Revelations chapter 20, verse 8. And it shall go and shall go out to the... we'll start at verse 7. So it's Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosened out of his prison. When did 1,000 years expire? 1,000 years expired when the Europeans, when Esau came back into power in the 15th century, 15th, 16th century. That's when 1,000 years expired, roughly 1500 AD. Yeah, the beginning of the Renaissance, the beginning of Esau's power, Isabel and Ferdinand, basically, when they came to the throne. That's when 1,000 years expired, yeah? It says when 1,000 years expired, Satan will be loosened out of his prison, yeah? So, when we're talking about Satan, we're talking about Esau. Let's just, I hope you understand that, yeah? And shall go out to deceive the nations, verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, yeah? Which is what Esau has done. Esau has gone to the four corners of the earth and he's deceived all of the nations and he's brought them under his own Babylonian, Roman doctrine. Yeah, that's what he's done. So it says, and shall go to the four quarters of the earth. Gog and Magog together, Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So it says Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is at the sea. Yeah. And they that went out on the breadth of the earth and come past the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, and the fire came down from the Most High of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire. Yeah, remember I said the word devil comes from the Latin word diablo, which means to deceive. Yeah. So when it speaks of the devil, it's speaking about a nation of people who had deceived all the other nations. Yeah, and that nation that we're speaking of is Esau. So when it says there, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it. From those face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. That great white throne is obviously the second coming of Yahushua. Yeah, and the verse before that, when it speaks about where it speaks about where the beast and the false prophet are and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. When it says, verse 10, when it says, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire. That lake of fire is America. Yeah, after the aftermath, when we're up in the chariots and the Lord and Yahushua and the angels have destroyed America, and the other nations are going to be involved. So Gog and Magog are going to be involved in the destruction of America with the other European nations. You may not believe it, you don't have to believe it, but it is prophesied in the scriptures. And remember, Ezekiel lived 600 BC, so we're talking something that was written, was prophesied 2,600 years ago. Yeah? So, we go to verse 10 again. It says, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Yeah? And I saw a great white throne with him that sat on it, and from those face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. That great white throne is Yahweh's throne. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life. Yeah? Which is what we know, we'll tell you about, it's the book of judgment. Yeah? And the dead were judged out of those things. As I said, dead, it's a book of judgment, because the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. The death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. So when it says death and hell, it's talking about the grave. Hell just comes from the Greek word Hades, comes from the Hebrew word Sheol, which means grave. Yeah, we're not talking about no hell with no devil sitting down with no horns on his head and a big set foot and he's giving up bodies to the Most High. We're not talking that. We are literally talking from the grave. Yeah? And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. The death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to his works. And like I said, that's what the book of life is, the book of judgment, so judge every man according to his works. Yeah? And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. Yeah? This is the second death. Because what was the first death? The first death was what? Was the flood. When Noah and his three sons, Japheth, Ham, and Shem, and his wife, and their wives boarded the ark. When the floods hit, that was the first death. So when the scripture talks about, and it says here, this is Revelation chapter 20 verse 14, it says, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. The second death is going to be the nuclear fallout. Because what did the Most High promise Noah? He said that he will not. He said his rainbow, first of all, was his covenant with him. Yeah? And that covenant was to do with the promise that he would not bring a destruction again to the world that's going to be of water or flood. Why? Because of the aftermath. What was witnessed after. Yeah? He said he will not do it by flood. Alright? So this is how we know that that was the first death. Yeah? The second death, which the Bible speaks of, it speaks of fire and brimstone. It's going to be the nuclear fallout. And I will say this till the day I die, that there is going to be a nuclear fallout amongst the nations. What is going on in Iran today is just part of stoking up the fire which has been prophesied in the scriptures, and we're going to go into that very shortly. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And that lake of fire is those that are going to be in, that's going to get caught up in the destruction through nuclear fallout. The lake of fire that actually speaks of, when it says into the lake of fire, it's actually talking about America, because America is going to turn into a lake of fire during the destruction. So basically, if you can imagine flying in an aeroplane and you're looking down on a land or country, it looks like a lake from above. So could you imagine that whole country being on fire? What would it look like from above in an aeroplane? It would look like a lake of fire. So when the scripture talks about a lake of fire, it's talking about what it's going to look like from afar. So when we're up in the chariots, when those that receive salvation are up in the chariots with the rest of the Israelites and the angels and Yahushua, when they're looking down on the destruction, it's going to look like a lake of fire. That's why when John the Revelator wrote this, he was seeing this from the vision of being up in the chariots, and looking down, it looked like a lake of fire. So, anyway, so you got to think of all the instances where prophecy may be recurring patterns. There are a few passages that are more compelling for the views of these things. Yeah, time after time, the Israelites were destroyed and gathered again. They were taken into captivity.